Hello subscribers, here is another review. This time it's the Theropod Dinosaurs from the Safari LTD Great Dinos line. And the Spinosaurus was requested by one of my subscribers, Hicham Mefta. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but like I said, he requested the Spinosaurus, and I was about to review the Spino separately until I decided to review all of the Great Dinos I have. So let's start off by taking a look at these figures. Let's start off with the Spinosaurus first, since that was the requested one. Now, this figure is pretty cool. See the detailing; it's okay, even though most of these Great Dinos figures just look like just large cheap dinosaurs you will find at like Dollar Tree or something. Except the Therizinosaurus, and see he's got a glossy black eye and this very fiery color scheme. And of course, most of you know this is just a larger, cheaper version of their 2001 Spinosaurus, which looks a lot better. And I don't even know why they have 4 fingers on the hand. Yeah, see, strangely, I'm not sure if this is supposed to be like a 2-legged or he's supposed to be in like a 4-legged pose, because the hand is positioned like that. But yeah, this is an okay figure. Definitely not my favorite of the Great Dinos line. Yeah, it's still a pretty cool figure, and I think they could still be found for easy prices. So let's move to the next one. Next up, we have none other than the T-Rex itself. Now, of course, you guys know this is like the Spinosaurus. This is just a bigger, cheaper version of the older Wild Safari T-Rex, which the paint job is a lot better than this one right here. See, this one probably has one of the most boring color schemes I've seen on a dinosaur toy. It's just brown with some shadings of darker brown on top, and of course you got beige colored teeth, and then a glossy black for the eyes and claws. See, detailing, like I said, is just very cheap. Looks pretty cheap, and yeah, nothing much to say about this figure other than it's just a larger version of the Wild Safari T-Rex but brown. And at least this one can stand on its 2 feet barely, because if you want it to stand, well, you just probably have to put it in a tripod pose. But yeah, that's the T-Rex. Let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have the Velociraptor, and I think this is actually a pretty cool looking figure right here, even though it's far from accurate, because their hands are pronated and there's no feathers besides the feathers on the head and the arms. But see, it's got a pretty cool paint job right here. It's like gray, forest green, and purplish brown stripes. And the plastic on here, it still looks cheap, but not as cheap as the previous 2 figures. And the skull itself is pretty accurate. Looks just like the Velociraptor. And my main gripe with this figure is, of course, the balancing issues. That's why I was holding this figure up. Either way, this is still a pretty nice figure, honestly. And I'd still recommend you buying. This is probably one of my favorites from the Great Dinos line. So yeah, that's the Velociraptor. Not much to say about it, other than it's another featherless Velociraptor toy. So let's move on to the next figure. Last but not least, we have my personal favorite of this assortment, and of course the largest figure of the theropods, which is the Therizinosaurus. Now this figure actually looks awesome. It's probably the second best Therizinosaurus toy we have. I think the best one is still the Deluxe Collecte one, and I think this is probably one of the few scientifically accurate Therizinosaurus toys, because we're still getting the inaccurate but still awesome looking Schleich Therizinosaurus, but we have this scientifically accurate one. And see, this one doesn't actually look cheap like the other 3 figures. See, a nice nicely sculpted feathers on here, and it doesn't feel hollow. Even though it's hollow, it feels actually heavy. And this feels like like a dinosaur from the Wild Safari line or even the Carnegie line. And yeah, currently this is the only Therizinosaurus. One of the very few Therizinosaurus figures Safari has produced. And I think the first one was Safari made for their Dinosaurs of China line. It was like a minty green Therizinosaurus, but this one's a lot better. I think it's also more accurate because the skull shape and then the feathers. See, the paint job is like on the bottom it's like a wood brown, and then you got some black all over the figure, and of course a chocolatey brown color. And of course it's basically a tripod because it stands on its feet, and one of the claws right here. Yeah, this is a pretty awesome looking figure right here, and I'm glad I have this figure in my collection because it's probably the best Therizinosaurus figure I have in my collection. The only others I have is a few from Schleich, and of course this one itself. Well, there you have it, guys. This is the Theropod Dinosaurs from the Safari LTD Great Dinos assortment. And if I had to give these figures ratings, Velociraptor is probably an 8 out of 10. Therizinosaurus is probably a 9 out of 10. T-Rex and Spinosaurus, probably have to say like a 4.5 out of 10. Because there's nothing really special about them, because they're just, larger versions of their Wild Safari figures. And the detailings on them is pretty scarce, the paint jobs are pretty boring, and the head sculpts are not that good. So yeah, of course, if I had to recommend you guys getting these figures, probably go for the Velociraptor and Therizinosaurus. Also, there are other great Dinos figures. The Apatosaurus and the Stegosaurus aren't that good, but the Triceratops is also a figure I recommend you guys getting. So if you guys like this video, leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next review.